Good evening. I'd like to welcome everyone to the September 25th special Temple City Council meeting. Madam Clerk, roll call please.
Councilmember Bloom.
Here.
Councilmember Chavez.
Here.
Councilmember Vizcarra.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Sternquist. Here. Mayor Yu.
Here. Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready to begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next item is ceremonial matters. There is none tonight. And then we'll open up for public comments on items not listed on the agenda. We have a couple items tonight, both relating to animal control and animal related ordinance. So if you're speaking on something else, then now's the time.
Move that we close public comments. Second.
All right, the public comment is closed. Next item, consent calendar. There is none. Unfinished business. The first unfinished business is the contract services agreement with Pasadena Humane Society and Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals, SPCA, for animal care, control, and sheltering services. Mr. Sahagan, would you give a staff report, please?
I will, sir. Mayor Yu, council members, good evening. Since 1960, the city has enforced animal control regulations throughout the city to protect the health and the safety of residents and the public, as well as to promote general welfare of persons and animals within Temple City. In 1980, the city joined the San Gabriel Valley Joint Powers Authority, otherwise known as JPA, which consisted of the cities of San Gabriel, Azusa, Monterey Port, Monrovia, and Temple City. The JPA negotiated cost and level of animal control services for each member city. On January 1st, 1980, the JPA contracted with the San Gabriel Valley Humane Society for animal control services. The contract allowed each member city to select various levels of service. The city of Temple City elected to provide its own animal control service using city staff, with animal sheltering and after-hours services to be incurred by the San Gabriel Valley Humane Society. This type of model has been utilized by the city for the past 3 decades. In 2007, the JPA was reorganized into 4 cities, which consisted of Azusa, Monterey Park, San Gabriel, and Temple City. When the city of Monrovia withdrew, the JPA continued to contract with the San Gabriel Valley Humane Society for animal control services, with new service agreements entered on a yearly basis. On April 28, 2011, as part of the ongoing efforts to transition city operations from status quo to high performing, the City Council began a series of strategic planning sessions to assess the current status of the city's organization and to develop policy level objectives for the next 2 fiscal years. Of those objectives, a priority was made to examine existing levels of service to residents and to transition city services where appropriate to higher performing contract service providers. On January 5th of 2012, the JPA Administrative Committee, which consisted of staff representatives from each member city, held a meeting to discuss the upcoming contract for animal control and sheltering service with the San Gabriel Valley Humane Society. The San Gabriel Valley Humane Society proposed an increase in fees, which would have ostensibly doubled the cost of sheltering and animal control services for fiscal year 2012-2013. The JPA Administrative Committee reviewed the proposed rates and obtained rates from other animal control agencies, like the Pasadena Humane Society and the Los Angeles County Department of Animal Care and Control. From January through April 2012, the JPA attempted to negotiate lower rates with the San Gabriel Valley Humane Society for animal control and sheltering services for fiscal year 2012-2013. Negotiations proved unsuccessful. In April 2012, the city began discussions with the Los Angeles County Department of Animal Care and Control as a possible alternate provider. The county offered to provide a full scope of services to city residents, which included 24-hour regular and emergency veterinary care, a dedicated animal control officer 5 days per week to the city, dog licensing processed by county staff, license canvassing, and fees collected from licensing and kennel services to be credited towards the city towards the amount of the towards the cost of the amount for the service. Low-cost vaccination clinics and free microchipping to Temple City residents was also offered. In May of 2012, after reaching an impasse with negotiations with San Gabriel Valley Humane Society, the JPA Executive Committee elected to dissolve itself, thereby terminating its contract with the San Gabriel Valley Humane Society effective June 30th, 2012. This left every member city responsible for providing animal control services. On June 19th of the past year, the City Council directed staff to perform an extensive request for proposals for animal control services and sheltering services. To ensure that animal control services for residents would not be disrupted, the City Council also directed staff to contract with the San Gabriel Valley Humane Society for a period of 3 months on an interim basis while this occurred. On August 24th, 2012, the city released an RFP, which is attachment A in your staff report, which was sent to the San Gabriel Valley Humane Society, the Pasadena Humane Society, the LA County Department of Animal Care and Control, and the Inland Valley Humane Society. The RFP was properly posted and distributed. On August 30th, on September 14, 2012, the city received 2 proposals, one from the Pasadena Humane Society and the other from the San Gabriel Valley Humane Society. Both attachments are provided in your staff reports as attachments B and C respectively. On September 15th, Animal Control Services Selection Committee consisting of myself, Public Safety Officer Brian Arizumi, Management Analyst Giselle Corella, and Management Analyst Teresa Santinella met to evaluate the proposals submitted by Pasadena Humane and San Gabriel Valley Humane. In evaluating the RFPs, the committee identified certain requirements within that RFP that would enable staff to analyze both quantitative and qualitative data. A comparison was conducted based on the same service levels and costs offered by both Pasadena Humane and San Gabriel Humane. Pasadena Humane Society agreed to all the city's RFP requirements, whereas San Gabriel Valley Humane took exception to 8 requirements set forth in the RFP. The selection committee identified 5 critical objectives to help guide that evaluation. Those 5 were the completeness of the proposal, comprehensive full-time services, detailed reporting and transparency, cost effectiveness, and referrals and recommendations. With regard to completeness of the proposal, it is staff's assessment that the proposal from Pasadena Humane did not take any exceptions to the city's request and scope of services. With regard to comprehensive full-time services, Pasadena Humane exceeded the city's requirements and agreed to answer informational calls from residents, provide 24-hour emergency response, kennel and adoption hours 7 days per week, 40 hours of patrolling per week with additional service at no additional cost. With regard to detailed reporting and transparency, Pasadena Humane Society exceeded the city's requirements by agreeing to submit the daily logs, detailed monthly reports via email, certified copies of all insurance certificates, notification in writing, writing prior to any changes in personnel. It was staff's assessment that Pasadena Humane Society met or exceeded the city's requirements as specified in the RFP. With regard to cost effectiveness, staff's assessment that Pasadena Humane exceeded the city's requirement by providing an all-inclusive services to the city at a flat monthly rate of $14,177 per month, or $170,126 per year. With regard to referrals and recommendations, staff contacted cities that had either current service or past service with both providers. It was staff's assessment that Pasadena Humane, in the evaluation, the staff that was contacted mainly dealt with the overseeing of said contract, and it was staff's assessment that Pasadena Humane Society met or exceeded the city's requirements as specified in the RFP. After reviewing the two proposals, the selection committee concluded that the Pasadena Humane Society exceeded the requirements in each of the areas when compared to San Gabriel Valley Humane. Under the Pasadena Humane Society's proposed agreement, the city will retain the processing and issuance of animal control licensing and all fees collected. This will not be designated to Pasadena Humane, and the city will retain all fees associated with said licensing. Based on the comprehensive analysis comparing overall animal control services offered to the city by Pasadena Humane, it is staff's assessment that Pasadena Humane consistently exceeded the city's expectations for delivery of animal control services. Therefore, staff recommends that the city approve the contract service agreement as attachment F in your staff reports for the duration of 9 months with an option to renew on an annual basis not to exceed 2 years. With regard to fiscal impact, on June 28th, the City Council approved, as part of the fiscal year 2012-2013 city budget, a $148,000 appropriation for animal control services. Due to the 3-month interim contract with San Gabriel Valley Humane for the period of July 12th through September 12th, the balance of the account is currently at $121,000. The proposed cost of services with Pasadena Humane for the remainder of the fiscal year 2012-2013 is $127,600. Therefore, staff anticipates a shortfall of approximately $6,600, which would be addressed through the mid-year budget process. With regards to fees collected from animal licensing, to date, the city has collected $60,000 and change in animal licensing fees, and revenue fees collected would go towards offsetting the costs for animal control services with a net expenditure of approximately $94,545 to the general fund. Before you, Mayor and council members, your options today are your options this evening are to approve the contract as recommended by staff or reject all bids. In rejecting all bids, if you decide to reject all bids, staff would recommend direction to proceed with San Gabriel Valley Humane, providing service on an interim basis, while staff further analyzes this issue and brings back a recommendation before the end of the fiscal year.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the council for staff?
I'd like a clarification, Robert.
Yes, sir.
What was the last part you said? In the event that we reject the proposals, that it would automatically go back to?
What would happen? Yes. Yes, Councilmember Vizcarra.
For a period of how long?
If you decide today, you have two options ostensibly. Your options are to approve the contract as recommended by staff with Pasadena Humane,
Right.
or you can reject all bids. In rejecting all bids, staff would recommend direction to proceed with San Gabriel Valley Humane Society on an interim basis for the remainder of this fiscal year, on an interim basis while staff further analyzes this issue and brings back a recommendation before the end of the fiscal year, and that recommendation may be opening it up again for RFP, or it'll be addressed through the budgetary process.
Because I think our we have an interim contract with the San Gabriel Valley Humane Society.
That is
It ends at the end of this month.
It is
And so
correct.
we need to have a way to transition into the new contract, but in the interim, we still need animal care
Provide the
services.
services.
Correct.
And would that cost be appreciably higher than any we would enter into with Pasadena?
As a matter of fact, council member, it would be lower.
And the licensing would still be at the city?
The licensing would still be at the city. The interim contract that the city is now currently entered into with San Gabriel Valley Humane is at $9,000 per month, and that we would ostensibly continue that contract through the end of the fiscal year while we further analyze this on an interim basis.
Okay. Thank you.
A question, would the San Gabriel Valley Humane Society be willing to continue at that price since there was a different price offered us in their RFP?
Yeah, that's where I was confused.
On an interim basis, at the level of services that are identified, it is mine, after speaking with representatives from San Gabriel Valley Humane, it was my understanding that they would be, yes.
The representative is here, and we can
ask.
certainly ask her when she, not this time yet, but when she's presenting, we can ask her that question. Okay, any other question for staff? Mrs. Sagan, are the representatives from both shelters here?
The representatives
From both humane societies are here?
I see the representative here from San Gabriel Valley Humane, and the representative from Pasadena Humane is not here today.
Okay, all right. At this time, I'd like no other questions for staff. I would like to open up for public comments. And, well, tonight, obviously, this is a very concerning topic to a lot of folks. And I have in front of me about 10, 12 speaker forms. So, so tonight we're not going to follow the 20-minute max per topic rule, and we'll allow everybody a chance to speak, but I'd like to request everyone to limit your comments to about 3 minutes. And there's a clock that the city clerk controls, and you see the red light blink when your time is up. However, for the two Humane Society who submitted the proposal, there's no time limit on your presentation. So I'd like to call up Ms. Pat Prayer, representing the San Gabriel Valley Humane Society.
Thank you, Mayor Yu. I'm Pat Breyer, President of the Board of Directors of San Gabriel Valley Humane Society. Mayor Yu, Mayor Pro Tem Sternquist, council members, staff, and citizens of Temple City. I recently participated in the Full Moon Festival held here in Temple City over a week ago, and I was able to speak to many Temple City residents about the vote that is to occur this evening. They all said there was no way that the City Council wouldn't choose their neighborhood Humane Society, the Humane Society that so many of them grew up with, volunteered at as a student at Temple City High School, that they had adopted a pet from and had such fond memories of. Yet here we are. For the past 30 years plus, San Gabriel Valley Humane Society was the exclusive animal care and control for the cities of a joint power authority, an archaic system that underpaid for services by 70% of market value, and did not promote direct relationships with the cities that we serviced. When contract negotiations stalled, we made the decision to contract on an individual basis with cities, a basis that would enable us to work directly with each city and the citizens of that city, as our counterparts in the animal care and control field do. An issue that had been always frustrating to us was that the citizens couldn't call us directly for service. They had to go through either their police department or city hall to have animal control services provided. Thankfully, the City Council and City Manager of Temple City agreed to extend a temporary 3-month contract to us so that we would have the opportunity to work with the city to negotiate a contract to continue to provide animal care and control services to the City of Temple City. We put forth a proposal and learned that we were not chosen. We disagreed with the reasons why, but the City of Temple City is important to us. It is our neighbor, and we have served the citizens and the animals of Temple City for so many decades. But I do want to be clear. We will provide a 40-hour-a-week officer under the RFP requirements, if that is the city's requirement. We just offered an alternative money-saving option so that should the city choose to go that way. I understand, however, a bit that the goalposts have changed somewhat. We were willing to provide a service, licensing, that was stipulated in the RFP to the city that our counterpart was not willing to provide under a 9-month contract. Even though by SGVHS providing that service, it would return monies to the city, defray the cost of our contract proposal, and take on the workload city employees have been doing, and we still were not chosen. We would still be willing to continue under an interim agreement and provide services at the level that the city would so choose. We have always been willing to negotiate and would continue to do so.
Sorry, at the $9,000 per month.
Yes. SGVHS provides a convenient locations for the location of the residents of the City of Temple City. We're right next door. This convenience is invaluable to the residents. We offer affordable vaccine clinics for all residents Tuesday through Saturday, and affordable spay-neuter services twice weekly, Tuesday through Saturday. We are open 6 days a week to the public, Tuesday through Sunday, and I did notice there were a couple of responses in the proposal from Pasadena. They are open only 6 days a week also. They're closed on Monday, as are we. We know the citizens in the streets of Temple City, as we have provided services for Temple City for well over 30 years. San Gabriel Valley Humane Society continues to provide community service hours for the student of Temple City High School, a requirement for their graduation, and we have done for many, many years. Because we are right next door, we're convenient not only for the students, but especially for their parents who usually drive them to our shelter for their hours. San Gabriel Valley Humane Society provides volunteer opportunities to the residents, scout troops, and schools of Temple City. Most recently, Oak Avenue School, who just replanted our entryway planter boxes. We are close, and we are convenient and easy for them to get to. While there were no real requirements in the RFP regarding the actual well-being of the animals in either shelter's care, to SGVHS, it's all about the animals and the citizens and the pet owners in the cities we serve. Our money is dedicated to the animals, not to buildings or multi-levels of management. Our canine adoption rate is 90%, and our feline adoption rate in 2011 was 104%. Our adoptions for cats exceeded our intake for the year, which really decreased the cat population in the shelter.
Is that because of kittens?
No, we just had so many adoptions. We had a cat adoption explosion last year. So while every shelter always has animals, no shelter's ever empty, unfortunately. It's our fondest dream. We always have a resident population, so not only did we exceed the intake in adoptions, we actually adopted cats that would otherwise still be in the shelter. San Gabriel Valley Humane Society has not euthanized an adoptable animal in over 3 years. And we do not euthanize animals for space, which our counterpart in Pasadena has acknowledged in the RFP response. We focus on 2 cities, San Gabriel and Temple City. Pasadena Humane Society currently services 7 cities, and with the addition of an 8th city, it will mean more animals and more euthanasias. It's just a fact of life. The citizens of Temple City support us and are a part of our shelter, and we want to get back to being the important part of this city and a source of pride. And that is exactly why we chose to exit an archaic joint power structure that required us to work through a consultant and not directly with the city, and left us powerless to be all that we can be. In fact, over the past few months, we have been able to develop relationships within your city government that only being free of the JPA structure could facilitate. While costs may matter, what matters most is that the city has the opportunity to support a local treasure. Its 88-year-old Humane Society, its neighborhood Humane Society, founded by a local resident for the community, in the community, a community it has served for 88 years. The citizens of this community support us, want to be part of us, and we want to continue to be part of this community. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have no other questions for you.
If you have questions for St. Gabriel Valley Humane, I think now's the time to ask.
Yeah,
Yes. Yeah. Ms. Bray, would you please? Go ahead.
Thank you, Ms. Berg, for being here this evening.
You're welcome. Thank you for having us.
It's been a difficult, trying times.
Yes, yes.
I noticed in your RFP that you, and as our Mr. Sahagan pointed out, there were a number of exceptions that you took. And in your email to us, it appears that most of them have to do, or at least according to your email, you're concerned about privacy.
Yes.
However, it would appear to me that there are at least a couple of them that really don't have much to do with privacy, and I'd like to get your take on that. One, of course, would be having to do with the duration of stay. How does that have anything to do with privacy? Because I know you're concerned about having to disclose names and addresses, but I don't know how does that have anything
Was
to
that
do with
duration of stay for the animals?
Yes.
Yes. We believe that as long as an animal stays happy, healthy, and adoptable, they have the opportunity to remain at our shelter until they're rehomed. There's no time limit, and we certainly wouldn't want a time limit imposed.
I understand that, but are you willing to disclose those records as far as?
Oh, absolutely. They always, in fact, you know, I think it was just a little, perhaps maybe confusing overall. Even when we were part of the JPA, every city was provided monthly records on intake, dispositions, etc. It was always provided. And we would still continue to provide that on a monthly basis. It's easier for us on a monthly basis. And we provide copies of every impound of every animal that comes into our shelter from Temple City back to the city. So you do always have records of that. We have no problem with providing the records.
So you don't take exception to that?
No, no, we don't.
Okay.
I think it was just a wording issue.
Also, I don't know if this applies, but obviously you've stated that you haven't euthanized any animals in the last 3 years, but one of the items have to do with when an animal is euthanized.
You get the copy of the paperwork of a Temple City animal, and it states the date of euthanasia and the reason. And generally, it's an animal that's not safe to be turned into the community.
Okay, so you don't take exception to that one?
No, no.
But in your RFP, you said you did. So just want to
Yes,
make sure we're clear.
I think it was more semantics than anything else, but when we fleshed it out, it really wasn't anything we took an exception to.
One of the things you heard earlier was the fact that, particularly in our city, we've tried to take transparency to the next level. And it's very important to us that we are transparent with our residents, and obviously we expect the same with our vendors and people we do business with.
Absolutely.
Do you have some flexibility? Are you willing to negotiate methods of working with the city regarding reporting and things like that to become more transparent?
Yes, we are, absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
A question I guess when you run out of space, what do you do with the animals if you don't euthanize them?
Well, because we're no longer part of the JPA, we now have breathing room. Prior to July 1st, we were responsible for 4 cities. And 2 years ago, we realized 4 cities were too many for us in the way that we want to care for the animals. So if you were to come to the shelter now, basically our kennels are half full. So we have plenty of space for intake regardless of the situation. Because we've reduced the number of cities we choose to work with, we've enabled ourselves to accommodate both cities to the fullest capacity that either of them could ever require.
A question concerning the JPA. Obviously, cities work together to try to get services and things like that. You've talked about wanting to serve the San Gabriel Valley and the Pride for 88 years, and I commend you and your organization for all that you've done over the years, but I guess it was a little disconcerting to me on why these cities were bailing out of the JPA. It seems like they were falling like flies, and it's like, okay,
Right.
what's happening here?
Right.
And what do they know that the rest of us don't know?
Right. Under the JPA, we were restricted to the cities of the JPA. And up until 2010, we actually didn't even have an exit option for us to remove ourselves from the JPA. So basically, our shelter was the exclusive shelter for 4 cities. That was it. There really wasn't any bargaining power on our side. So when we evaluated the amount of service we provided to those 4 cities and how much of our resources at the shelter level went towards those 4 cities, it was nearly 80% of our resources. Yet they were only paying for half of our expenditures on their behalf. So if they wanted to continue to be a JPA and wanted us to serve them exclusively, I mean, we couldn't entertain talking to anybody else. We couldn't ask them to lower the amount of cities that were in the JPA. If they continued to want us to serve them exclusively, then they needed to pay the related cost to serving only those 4 cities exclusively. And that is how we tried to negotiate with them. We gave them a complete financial budget and breakdown of what serving the JPA was costing us. And yet they only came back to us with a 5% increase. It was not apples to apples in terms of what they were paying to what they were getting based on the intake that we were receiving in our shelter. We tried in good faith to negotiate because we had been serving the JPA for over 30 years, but at the end of the day, the reality of the financial burden the JPA structure was putting on our Humane Society was something we could not continue to bear and continue for another 88 years and 88 years after that. So finally the realization was they don't want to pay us appropriately for their services. And trust me, I've evaluated our counterparts not only at Pasadena, but Inland Valley, Riverside, the county. The county was very willing to share with us their cost structure. And if I had applied the cost structure of the county to the JPA, they would have been asked to pay a lot more than what we were even asking for. That's how much higher the county structure is. The county, of course, being a governmental agency, has budgets that we couldn't even dream of. And the reason that the county's able to turn licensing back to the cities that they provide animal control services for is because A, they're not allowed to make money, and B, it's to help defray the high cost of their services. So at the end of the day, we realized that we had to exercise the opt-out clause that we had put in 2010 on April 1st and say, what will serve our Humane Society best is to contract with 1, 2, or 3 cities that are small to moderate in size, that are intakes that we can manage, that we can afford to manage, not only on whatever income we derive from the animal control contracts, but also sustain ourselves on our donations, on our spay-neuter and our vaccine clinics, as well as our adoption fees. And that is why we made the change that we did. And obviously we were very keenly aware that we would now be in a position to have to negotiate with cities, respond to RFPs, and basically, prove ourselves to cities that were willing to contract with us. you know, our references for past service is the JPA. I mean, we never had the luxury of cities that could work with us one-on-one. Now we have that ability.
I guess probably following along the same lines, you know, my perception is the feedback we got from those cities that were in the JPA, that they weren't necessarily, I guess, pleased with the service they were getting, and therefore, you know, that was part of the reason for dropping out. Could you comment on that?
I can. Because we really never were able to develop relationships with the cities, we had to work through a consultant that lived 30 miles away. And we never really were able to have one-on-ones and build a relationship so that we could best serve the cities. And it's not so much the citizens of those cities. I mean, we have so much support from citizens in the cities that we don't have any longer. But I can certainly understand, all of a sudden, something that a city had been used to for 30 years has gone away. And we know the city's benefited financially by underpaying for services. And not only did we end that for them, but we now thrust them also into some scenario that was not common for them to be in. The JPA had taken care of everything for all the cities. Now all of a sudden they were out searching for service and having to pay market rates. So I can understand how they might not be very happy.
Okay, I guess the other question I had is you mentioned that on the RFP response, that the response you gave in the RFP and the response you are giving us now may be different. I guess I'm a little concerned. Usually when we go out for an RFP, we're asking for, give us your best shot and let us evaluate it.
Right.
And I know there was, you know, after that all came in, staff evaluated, then all of a sudden some more information starts coming in. I'm going,
I always
wanted, why is that happening?
Yeah, I always wanted clarity on the 40-hour officer. Because of the way we had always worked with Temple City and the number of calls that we actually received from Temple City to respond to, I thought perhaps 40 hours of a dedicated officer was not cost effective for the city. I wanted clarity on that. Do you really believe you need a 40-hour officer? If you do, here's the cost. But if you don't, and I could only base that on the number of calls we've had to respond to over the years, and especially in the last 3 months, perhaps you don't need that many hours. So we're willing to offer you an alternative contract rate to save you money. You know, we can always go back and adjust and, you know, and recost things if it ends up exceeding. And I'll give you a good example. For the last 3 months, we've been providing a basic service of $9,000 a month for X amount of services per week, hours per week. Well, the city's exceeded that, not by a lot, just by about 1,000 a month. But I haven't had any problem with that. I certainly haven't billed the city for any extra charges over the $9,000 because I still believe that was a fair and equitable amount to charge the city for the services that we were providing. Because I still do want to be a partner to the city. We're not in animal control to make money. We're in animal control to give animals an opportunity to get a home that otherwise would not. So we've always been willing to be flexible and negotiate with the city. I think partly because all of a sudden the contract was ending, then we got an extension, and then the RFP came out. You know, we really never had that opportunity for us to all sit down and say, you know, let's talk one-on-one. What does the city really need? This is the cost. Does this work for you? And, you know, as I said, we were willing to do the licensing, whether it was a 9-month contract or a 21-month contract. It didn't matter to us, and turn the monies back to the city. You know, our relevant issue with licensing is that we know the dogs in the city are vaccinated against rabies and the citizens are safe. So it wasn't ever to make money. It was to serve the purpose of licensing, upholding the public health laws, and then helping you to defray the costs of having a 40-hour-a-week officer. Now, I understand the city does feel it needs a 40-hour-a-week officer, and we're more than willing to provide that. We always have been. And in our RFP, it states that we'll provide a 40-hour-a-week officer. In our counterparts' RFP, it never mentions 40 hours. So we were always willing to support the city with that if that's what they truly felt that they needed. And when I asked the question, it was confirmed by staff that yes, they do want a 40-hour person.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome, thank you.
Here you, I have a couple of follow-up questions.
Please, go ahead.
Just a follow-up to Councilmember Bloom's question regarding services. I don't really think you answered the question. You focused more on the financial aspect of it, but in the surveys that we got, there was a concern regarding the services. For example, Monterey Park, which used to be one of your former cities, on a scale of 0 to 3 rated you a 0 in 3 of the 4 categories. Do you think that's just payback, or, I mean, how do you respond to that?
Yeah, my personal opinion is basically yes. They were one city that had their own animal control officer who was a former employee at SGVHS, and the working relationship was never good, and we could never seem to get past it. We haven't had a good relationship with one lieutenant who's not there any longer. But again, we never really got to develop the relationships we needed to with whomever of their staff was responsible for animal control. It was always through the third party.
Now, I remember being part of the city liaison to the JPA a couple of years ago. And if I recall, at that time there were some issues between the San Gabriel Valley Humane Society and JPA regarding obtaining the necessary reporting information to justify some of these increases. It still seems to be an issue, not only in the exceptions that you given to our RFP, but also, again, the survey, Monterey Park had you as a 1 on the reporting, and even San Gabriel, who's still Monterey Park had you as a 0 on the reporting, and the city of San Gabriel, who is still with you, gave you a 1 on reporting. So that still seems to be an issue.
Well, you know, I'm not quite sure what the reporting they were identifying was an issue. I don't know if it's the monthly reports of animal statistics, but they were provided by the 10th of every month following service to the city of San Gabriel, who was the treasurer. We would not have gotten paid if any of those reports had been incomplete, yet we were paid on time every month. No one ever raised an issue to us that either our animal reporting statistics were incomplete or incorrect or wrong. I do know that the JPA had always stated they had an issue with regard to the audits. And as I stated, every year I have a drawer full of the audits that were incurred at our expense that were really never really required by the JPA contract, but we had them done because we were led to believe they had to be done. So our financials are definitely transparent, and we have always filed our 990 on the state website every single year, and we continue to do so. So if there had been an issue with reporting, why didn't, over the last particularly 3 years that I've been involved with the Humane Society, why wasn't the issue ever raised? Why weren't we made to correct it if it was an issue? And then why did they pay us if paying us each month was contingent on them getting accurate reports by the 10th of every month?
So at one time you were servicing Monrovia, Azusa, Monterey Park, San Gabriel, and Temple City.
Yes.
Now you're down to Temple City and
San Gabriel.
Are you currently seeking other cities to
No.
serve?
No,
So
we're
you
not.
plan on just sticking with Temple City
Yes,
and
for
San
now,
Gabriel?
just the 2 cities, yes.
What do you mean for now?
Well, I mean, for this contract year, obviously, there's no one that we're looking to beyond this year, through June 30th of 2013. It's the 2
Long-range
cities.
plans to increase that?
Do you know, we're going to have to evaluate that as we go. Right now, we know we can comfortably support our Humane Society with just the 2 cities. I don't know if we can best serve not only the 2 cities, but the animals that we take in by taking on more than we can chew. And I think that was the problem for so many years. the Humane Society did more than they should have been doing for their capabilities, their level of income. So we really need to be able to just sustain ourselves, and if it means it's just 2 cities, it's just 2 cities.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Bray, I want to ask you something more fundamental than numbers and reports. It's kind of funny because I've been in the animal business for a long time myself, too, designing animal-related facilities. As a Humane Society, I understand that you guys were saying that if you have lost, at least a few months ago, if San Gabriel, City of San Gabriel or Temple City or no city would contract with us, you guys would still remain in the animal sheltering business?
Yes, we just wouldn't have done animal control because obviously we wouldn't have had cities to provide animal control too. But because our founder created the Humane Society to take in stray animals, that was a mission we didn't want to abandon. If we were forced to, then obviously we would restructure ourselves to be an adoption center. But our mission was to take in stray animals, so that is what we want to continue to do. And I know that's kind of the dirty word in the animal field, animal control. But if we're not the first line of help for those animals, we know they end up at facilities where they don't stand a chance, not like they can at ours. So if in some small way we can be that small community animal control and Humane Society facility that at least enables the animals in the cities that we serve every opportunity possible, that's what we want to do, because that's what Mrs. Kessler created San Gabriel Valley Humane Society to do.
Thank you. Any other question for Ms. Bray?
Just so I'm clear, the issue of the full-time employee,
Yes.
is that included in the 9,000?
That wasn't included in the 9,000. For the full-time, it would have been 12,000. We had offered both options. That was back in, I want to say that was in May or June. And just for simplicity's sake, we went with the 9,000 effective July 1st. So it's just a few thousand more.
But still, while it's not necessarily 40 hours, your office is still available 24/7.
24/7.
On an as-needed basis.
Yes, yes.
So,
Yeah, and we can work out, the hours with staff. We've got flexibility for both options. Either way, even if we do an extension of the interim or if we decide to go with an actual contract.
If I may interject, council member, with regards to the 9,000, that is, that also utilizes, it's not for 40 hours, but it is on an as-needed basis, which would provide services to the residents with supplemental services provided by staff.
yes.
I'm sorry, what does that mean?
Means we also use staff in the interim. What's happened?
City staff.
City
to
staff.
Help.
Yeah, to assist, as Ms. Brayer has alluded to in the past. We found that Temple City residents are used to having a full-time animal control officer within the city. The $9,000 monthly rate that would be, if you should so choose, to be entered in on an interim basis, would utilize both city staff to supplement the services that would be provided by Pasadena Humane. I'm sorry, by San Gabriel Humane, I apologize.
Just a clarification question. You mentioned that the JPA, did you say that they, whether or not you wanted to contract with one of these other cities, Monrovia, San Gabriel, if you did not want to, for whatever reason, that you were forced to, by the agreement with the GPA, to stay with these cities,
Yes.
whether or not you felt you could provide adequate sheltering and animal control?
Yeah, we could not.
You could not leave. So that question brings up to me then, well, someone might give a 0 and might not have felt comfortable with the amount of service, but yet you weren't able to, you know, have these one-on-ones and express your concern, but yet whether or not you wanted to service a city that you weren't comfortable doing, you were forced to do. Is that correct?
Well, the way it was structured, each city had their own needs. For the city of Azusa, for example, we provided what they considered full service. Their citizens called us directly and we responded directly to a citizen's call, day or night. Monterey Park and Temple City each had their own animal control officers. So they provided first response service by their officers, and when their officers were off or it was after hours, then we would be contacted, we would provide the services. For San Gabriel, everything went through the police department, and the police department decided whether or not they would call us for service. So because we really had to respond to the contract as it was written, we couldn't work with the cities to say, well, how about this or how about that? It was, this is what you're doing and that's that. We didn't have the flexibility to negotiate directly with each city as to how they really wanted service, what was better for their cities or their citizens. And I can tell you, there are so many frustrated citizens in probably San Gabriel and Monterey Park on Azusa right now because, you know, they were not able to just call the Humane Society and say, can you come and pick up this deceased animal, or I have a confined stray dog in my yard, and it had to go through channels. And frankly, that was frustrating not only for the citizens, but for us, plus the burden it put on police departments or sometimes even city halls to have to field calls and then make another call. And yeah.
So it could be possible that a survey that was generic in design wasn't really the same for everybody responding.
Yes, because each one had their own parameters on how they required service or didn't require service.
And I think that's the thing that makes me a little bit nervous about surveys, when you have different contracts with different provisions for each city. I guess the bottom line for me is, you know, I have always felt comfortable having many dealings with San Gabriel Humane Society, and actually all my dogs have been rescued from San Gabriel Humane Society. I have an animal from Pasadena too, so, and equally good experiences with both. I think since you are a community and you are close by, when I look at the exceptions, I know an RFP is an extensive questionnaire with answers and your report, but it's not the human person coming in and answering the questions. And up until yesterday, we were still receiving, emails from you and from staff regarding the report. So there's a lot to comprehend, and even as much as today, with inclusions and exclusions. For me, would San Gabriel Humane Society, if we continue to contract with them in the interim throughout the year, meet all those same exceptions that Pasadena, that you are not agreeing to and Pasadena is?
I think I just needed clarification on what was really expected, and I think I just wanted the opportunity to explain exactly why I was taking exception. With the privacy issue, let's talk that out and I'll tell you why. Suppose somebody from Arizona adopts, 9 months after we take in an animal that was stray in Temple City. I don't know how comfortable that person would be with me saying, okay, I'm giving your information to the city of Temple City. But if that's what we decide that that's what has to be done, then we talk it out, we agree it, and we go forward. So I think, as you say, speaking directly and personally to everyone was really what we were hoping to achieve. And yeah, the RFP was, kind of this still, inanimate object between us that was just a series of questions and answers, but really didn't have the personal response.
I was looking at one of the exceptions where San Gabriel Humane Society did not want to release the name of new personnel. To me, that seems like something very simple to be able, to work out. And if we're trying to build transparency, and we've had a relationship with Barry Blair, a 40-hour employee working with the residents, most definitely, we would appreciate knowing who the personnel is. I couldn't really see as why that would have been an exception, but I think those are the things that you, looking at on paper, you know, we don't really know. But I think that's something that I think would be important, and would you be willing
Oh, yes.
to do those things?
Yes.
And that's all I have. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
There you have.
Okay.
But just so we're clear here, you did agree to the terms of the JPA contract, right?
Yes.
You knew what was in there. You knew what was expectations.
Yes, in 2000.
And that was also on an annual basis, wasn't it?
No,
All right.
no. In 2009, February of 2009, the new board of directors, myself included, when we took over administration of the shelter that February, the contract was due for renewal July 1st for 3 years. Because we were inheriting a humane society basically and a mess that was far beyond our comprehension, we asked only for a 1-year extension, a 1-year contract at that time, just so that we could get in the door, do what we needed to do, and then basically evaluate. At the end of the year, the JPA came back and wanted to negotiate a 3-year contract, which we declined. We asked only for a 2-year, and we put some changes into the contract that helped clarify and helped benefit the Humane Society as much as we could request. But we knew that we needed to continue. We were still in the process of cleaning up an old mess we inherited, evaluating the actual cost of running the Humane Society and the cost of doing business with the JPA. So it wasn't on an annual basis. The first contract was a 1-year, then it was a 2-year. I did all my evaluations, and we realized last year that we needed to be paid fairly for being an exclusive shelter. And that's when we began negotiations December 1st of 2011 to be more equitably paid.
So just so I'm clear, it's your feeling that you left the JPA, not the other way around?
Well, no, we actually didn't leave. We continued to negotiate all the way up through March of 2012. Because we were getting nowhere, we weren't getting a response, we weren't getting a counteroffer, we weren't able to even sit down with the cities. We just were able to sit down with the consultant that was the executive director. We never got the opportunity to talk one-on-one with the cities, or even with the cities as a JPA. We finally were so exasperated, and we exercised the 90-day option to not go further with negotiations. That was effective April 1st.
What happened with the city of Azusa?
In terms of?
They're no longer with you either.
No, and you know, again, we never got the opportunity to sit down and negotiate with them. And I know on the day of their city council meeting to approve the contract with LA County, the residents hadn't even been apprised of that council meeting until 11 a.m. on the Monday of the council meeting. So I kept checking the council meeting agendas to see when it was going to be raised, and literally it was never posted. We would have attended the meeting, and we never had the opportunity. So I think because we were never ever, from December 1st of 2011 up until April 1st of 2012, we were never given the opportunity to actually meet face-to-face with the city.
That's great. Just want a little bit of clarification. The JPA was made up of members from each city?
It was 4 cities, and the cities had 2 representatives from each city that were part of the JPA. One member from the city was on the executive committee of the JPA, and 1 member would have been on the administrative committee.
But the JPA has a paid staff, am I correct? That's
They
a
have
consultant.
a paid executive director, yes,
Right,
that
right. So-
each city paid for.
So all the negotiation was actually done through the...
Through that third party, yes.
So what, the cities don't actually negotiate or talk to you directly?
Well, you know, in 2009, we actually did sit with all the cities, and I don't know why we never got that opportunity any time thereafter.
All right, thank you. Any other questions on this prayer? Okay, thank you. There's some seats over here for those who are staying in the back. All right. And because we have a few people who just walked in, I just want to say that whoever would like to speak, please fill out one of these speaker forms. There are a bunch of them out here. And because there are many speakers, so we'll like to limit your comments to only about 3 minutes. First one I want to call is Ms. Maria Werner.
Mayor, you and City Council members, I would just like to briefly say that in all the years I've lived in Temple City, which has been practically my entire life of 60 years, the contract that we've had with the San Gabriel Valley Humane Society, I believe has been honored fairly and sincerely. And from my own experiences, when I have had to call them when our own animal control officer is not working, say on the weekends or a holiday, they've always been very empathetic and sympathetic and given me advice or whatever help that they could. For myself, I am concerned, even today on Yahoo, when they posted the notice that the City Council was probably going to go with Pasadena, there was a picture of cats in the Pasadena shelter, and the caption was how crowded the shelter was. And that does concern me in terms of Temple City animals going there and possibly not having a chance to make it out as much as if they went to the San Gabriel shelter. I also have some concerns about the parking and accessibility at the Pasadena shelter. So thank you very much for
Thank you.
attention.
Ms. Linda Josephian.
What was the last name?
Josephian.
My name is Linda Josephian. I'm a resident of Monrovia, a volunteer at the San Gabriel Valley Humane Society. And I'd like to talk to you tonight a little bit about the differences that I see between Pasadena and the San Gabriel Valley Humane Society, especially from the perspective of the dogs. I'm not involved with the cats, but I think the same thing is true there. We volunteers are very concerned about the length, how much chance an animal has at a shelter to become adopted. And we watch online at the pet finder sites. And we began to see that dogs at Pasadena didn't stay on the pet finder sites very long. So in July, 3 of us went out to Pasadena to see the facility. It's a gorgeous facility, I have to say that. But every kennel has an intake kennel card for every dog. And we looked at the dates. And there were, of all the dogs we saw there, there were only 3 who had been there longer than 60 days. So we surmise that when a dog comes into Pasadena, it's almost stamped with the 30 days. None of them had been there longer than 30 days. So it's like when they come into the shelter, they have a 30-day expiration. So this really disturbed us. At our shelter, we have dogs that get adopted right away. We have other dogs that don't get adopted right away. And they have a chance. Some stay months. But we only service 2 cities. Last I heard, Pasadena was servicing 7. And if they have a 30-day expiration date, you know that the shelters for the county that service, I think Baldwin Park, last I heard, was servicing 38 cities. You know, the dogs there don't have much of a chance at all. So I just want you to know that all the dogs that come into San Gabriel are named. The staff knows their names, the volunteers know their names. We do everything that we can to get them adopted. And I really feel like you'd have to look a long time before you'd find a humane society that has as much humane in it as we do.
Mr. Josephian, I have a question.
Yes.
Could it be because the Pasadena Humane Society had a really high adoption rate? All the dogs don't stay longer than 30 days?
Well,
Did you check into that?
I heard the man from Pasadena say that they had a 90 or 92% adoption rate also. What troubles me is at our shelter, like I say, some get adopted right away, others it takes longer. It seems very odd to me that the dogs are adopted as they come in chronologically.
Any question?
Ms. Josephian?
Yes.
I'm sorry, how long have you been a volunteer there?
Between 2 and 3 years.
Okay, so how many cities have, during your time span, how many cities have?
4.
There's been up to most 4.
Mm-hmm.
So when you had 4 cities, I assume the conditions were a little different, weren't they, as far
The
as
condition,
dogs coming in and going out?
right. The kennels were more crowded when we serviced 4 cities. It's actually much nicer right now.
Okay.
But as far as euthanasia, I don't know. I don't know the figures, but I know that
The euthanasia figures at San Gabriel?
I don't know them.
Okay.
But I know that we track the dog. We see the dogs, and I'm telling you, we have dogs that have been there a long time, and they are not euthanized because they've been there a long time. It's what's different between now and when we had 4 cities is there are fewer dogs in each kennel. It's not as crowded, and it's better for the dogs.
When you were there a couple of years ago, when there were 4 cities, did you ever reach a capacity and have to turn any dogs away, or how does that work?
I don't think that they can. I'm just a volunteer, but I don't think that if they have a contract with a city to do animal control, I don't believe that they can turn any dogs away.
Well, maybe I should restate that. In your working there, did you ever feel it was overcrowded, or there were just too many dogs there?
I felt that we were at capacity.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next, I would like to call Ms. Mary Cadenas.
Those dogs are from Kansas City. Those pictures.
All right, thank you.
Good evening to all of you.
Good evening.
I've lived in Temple City for 50 years.
You speak into the mic a little bit more, please.
I've lived in Temple City for about 50 years, and I've been a frequent visitor to the animal shelter in San Gabriel. I've also been to Pasadena, and I've been to Baldwin Park. And I have a couple of thoughts on this whole thing. Because San Gabriel is so much closer to us than Pasadena is, or even Baldwin Park, I think it would be in the best interest of people in Temple City especially to stay with San Gabriel because it's closer. The price of gas is very expensive right now, as we all know. And for senior citizens or people who are on a limited budget, it does cost more for them to try and go all the way to Pasadena. And it probably would be harder for them if they couldn't make it in their own transportation to try and get there with the use of a friend. We've always been very happy with all the services we've received at the San Gabriel Humane Society. My family and I have adopted a number of animals over this period of years, and we've always been very satisfied with the animals and with the help that we received. My husband had a friend who was a volunteer there many years ago. She was an older lady, and she would come and they would make arrangements to take the pet out, a certain dog or something, to take them out, have them groomed, and have them fixed up nicely so that they could get adopted. And a lot of the volunteers that work there also put in contributions to help them get the animals ready to be more readily adopted. I think in terms of convenience and trying to support Temple City and San Gabriel, I think it would be a really worthwhile investment for Temple City to continue going to San Gabriel for their animal needs and to be able to contact people that really genuinely seem to care about the animals. That's a thought of somebody that's been doing a lot of business with them over the years and trying to support, people in Temple City and San Gabriel.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Quick question. You stated you had also visited Pasadena and Baldwin Park. Did you describe your experience in Pasadena? Good, bad, neutral?
Pasadena is a lovely agency. They have a beautiful building. The parking over there is very difficult. I work in the city of Pasadena, so I know, parking can be a real problem over there. Baldwin Park, well, Baldwin Park is not a place that I would have to want to take one of my animals. I wouldn't want them to have to go there. We once lost a little Chihuahua, so my daughter and I visited all 3 facilities frequently. And Pasadena is very nice, but where you feel more at home and more comfortable because the staff seems to be more helpful is over here in San Gabriel.
So other than the parking, did you take any negatives away from your visits to Pasadena?
Not really, no. I mean, it's a nice facility. They do, they've spent a lot of money to fix the building up and make it look really beautiful, and they seem to take very good care of the animals that they have.
Okay. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Okay.
Ask the staff real quick question.
Yeah,
That's
please,
come up.
please.
I don't want to put you on the spot, but it's come up a couple of times already. What is the distance between here and San Gabriel and here in Pasadena?
7.8 miles between here and Pasadena. And I think
Brian's looking it up right now.
Brian's looking.
He was thinking.
It's 1.3 miles from City Hall to
1.3?
St. Gabriel Valley Humane Society. I looked it up already.
All right, thank you. Why didn't you answer right away then?
I never got looking at it.
Got to jump right in there, you're the mayor. That's good. Let staff do it. All right, thank you. All right, so we got 1.3 to St. Gabriel
Yes.
and 7.8 to Pasadena. All right, thank you.
Next, Mr. Arthur Crittenden.
Thank you, from Temple City Animal Hospital. 3 insights that might help flavor the decision. First, we are exposed to field staff from San Gabriel Valley Humane Society, and without exception, we just observe that they are professional and compassionate, and we're very comfortable working with them, and are confident about the way the animals are handled over there as we see those people. The second point is that I don't have a historic handle on where my client base comes from, but I do have an incoming handle on where my client base comes from. And in a given period, about 15% of our new clients come from referrals from the San Gabriel Valley Humane Society.
I'm sorry, did you 15 or
15?
50?
15.
Oh.
I still think that's a big number. 15, thank you. That's a big footprint on the community. And if you think that we're not unique, but that's probably a community-wide figure, a lot of animals are getting placed successfully and happily into our environments thanks to their work. And I think the essence of pet ownership is humane treatment of pets and joy to the owner, and that's been facilitated by that organization very locally in our community. The third thing is Kaylin S. in the audience? Okay, we got a post on our Facebook page about this issue that is quite interesting. Just a sentence. Our 2 cats were adopted from there, as well as our 2 dogs. One of our dogs was at the shelter 11 months. Not hearsay, not speculation, but hard number, 11 months.
Actually, that is hearsay. We'll let that go.
You're being a lawyer.
I'm sorry, I had to say that. If you were offering it for its truth, then
I'll consult my people about that. Thank you very much. I hope my point was made by that note. Thank you.
You couldn't resist.
Came out.
Thank you.
Could I have one question for Arthur? You talked about your relationship with the San Gabriel Valley Humane Society staff. Have you had any relationship with the Pasadena Humane Society staff?
No, we have not. And just as a note of background, we occasionally see some of their veterinary work overflow come to our facility. So it's not a commentary on Pasadena. It's just that that's what happens when they get a lot of pets flowing through at one time.
Okay, thank you.
Sir, are you a veterinarian?
I'm Mr. Crittenden. Dr. Crittenden is who I'm married to.
All right. Thank you. Next person, Queen Beth? Miss Queen Beth.
Hello, Gwen.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the name.
Quinn Bev.
Queen Beth?
Yes.
Thank you.
I've been a resident of Temple City for 26 years, and I'm a veterinary technician. I hate speaking in public, so excuse me that I'm nervous, but I have been doing rescue for 15 years, primarily focusing on spay and neuter of feral and homeless cats in the San Gabriel Valley. I've helped spay and neuter a cat, or a few cats for some people on the council.
6 at my house.
One of my primary, I desperately hope that we stay with San Gabriel Humane.
You work for San Gabriel Humane? You work for San Gabriel?
No, I do not. I've never worked there. No. I work for a spay neuter clinic in Burbank, so completely unaffiliated. Barry Blair, I've worked with over the years several times just by living in Temple City, having called Temple City Animal Control, have a dog in my yard that's that's roaming loose. He knows these animals. He knows where they came from. He knows how to get them back home. I've had him help where we've had community issues with people upset about too many cats. He's good at abating all those arguments between the residents, and it keeps that small community feel that if we were to work with a humane society like Pasadena, or God forbid Baldwin Park, that would not be the case. And San Gabriel Humane, their staff and their people are familiar with our area, with our residents. And so that's one of my primary concerns. Without him and without working with San Gabriel Humane, we lose any control or say-so with our animal control. It can get really hard to find an animal in the system once it's gone that far away. I work with a lot of elderly residents in Temple City who have outdoor cats that are homeless that I fixed. They have no mode of transportation. If those cats have to be licensed and get taken away, it'll be very difficult for them to ever retrieve the cats, and I think it'll end up costing the city and the shelters more money than it would if we were to stay with San Gabriel Humane. So those are my primary concerns, and I just hope that we stay with them. Ideally, in a perfect world, I would like to have Barry back because he has been instrumental in helping with the community and keeping situations from blowing out of control that otherwise could have. And it's a hard position to be in, working in rescue and trying to find a balance. So that's about it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Gwen, do you have my trap?
I absolutely do not. I have 10 of my own.
Okay.
Do you need one though? I have plenty you can borrow. You have my phone number.
Mayor, you perhaps maybe we should clarify the fact for the audience that, because it's been brought up a couple of times. Baldwin Park facility is not really an option tonight.
No.
It's come up a couple of times, but there's nothing on the table right now to go to the Baldwin Park.
Right. Baldwin Park is a county facility. County is I believe, a number of shelters, but the one closest to us is the Baldwin Park. It's not bad facility. It's just that county service so many cities and just have a lot of cats and dog population. They recently have a brand new spay neuter clinic put in, so check it out. It's pretty nice. I worked on it.
Maybe it's a good thing they're not up here before.
So, well, I was more of a consultant to the designer. So, Miss Jo Beckwith.
Mayor, I'm sorry, Ms. Beckwith, if I may, I see a lot of people putting sweaters on and with their arms crossed. If you would ask the audience if they want us to lower the air conditioning.
Please.
Raise the air conditioning.
You could ask the council.
It's a little nifty, but generally.
It's always a question, do you lower the air conditioning or do you raise the temperature? It's always difficult to communicate that. What is it you're after?
Get everybody warmer.
Get everybody warm. All right. I'm Joe Beckwith. I'm a resident of Temple City since 1972. You've seen me here before. I want to thank you for this opportunity to address all of you once again. Since Mr. Chavez was asking about people who had personal contact with Pasadena Humane, I hadn't intended to address it, but I will since it's been raised. I adopted my first animal from Pasadena Humane. It was a cat. Before I became a dog person, I was a cat person. And I went over there to look at the cats, and it was a beautiful cat, and they said, its time's almost up. I adopted the cat, and in the process, the person interviewing me asked me where I was from, and I told her, and she said, don't go to San Gabriel Valley Humane Society, all their animals are sick. This is hearsay. But the rules of evidence don't apply here.
Your testimony is acceptable. That's the
When did this
It was
happen?
about 2000.
Okay.
And so I adopted the cat and just tucked away that information. I got home and I got a free vet check. Everything was fine. 6 weeks. The cat was sick. I spent $1,200 in 6 weeks of agony with that cat trying to save it. And it was a sick cat. I couldn't save it. So that answers your question about somebody with personal experience of how they were treated in Pasadena. I've done my personal, since I was here last week and I knew this was coming up, I've done my personal contact with people in my neighborhood. When you walk dogs, you know where the dogs live. So I've gone to my neighbors and I've talked to them. And not one person wants to leave San Gabriel Valley Humane Society. Not one person wants to have to go to Pasadena for services. It's not a scientific sampling. It is hearsay, but this is not a court of law.
I think I'm sorry that I brought that up. We'll give everybody a waiver on the evidence.
I am an inactive member of the California Bar. Well, I think that those are my main points. The people don't know this is going on. I know you put it on the website. I know the agenda's there, but people don't look. And when you talk to them face to face, I appreciate all the work the staff does, but you got this baby wrong. I just think we need to stay here. Thank you.
Did these people you were talking to give you an idea of, other than the distance, why we shouldn't leave San Gabriel Valley?
Oh,
or why they don't want to go to Pasadena?
My neighbors?
Yeah, you mentioned that you had talked to quite a few.
Yes, right. They seem to think this is where they've done business, this is who they like. Two people said to me, I hate Pasadena. I didn't ask for explanations. It's good to be here.
So because they hate the city, they figured that Humane Society is...
They're snobs.
Yeah.
They make it too hard to adopt a dog.
Yeah.
These are the kinds of things people say.
No, that's what I want to know. I'm asking a question. That's good stuff. I'm glad you brought that in.
I gave them each a piece of paper with all your email addresses on it, and I urged them to email you.
We noticed.
All right.
May I ask you, you made a comment, and actually I heard that and also saw this question from, this statement came from a lot of folks. That is, Pasadena Humane, it's really hard to adopt animals from there.
Yeah.
Do you mind qualifying that, explaining what do you mean by that?
Actually, I didn't have a trouble adopting the cat. And I've never tried to adopt an animal there and been turned down. I've adopted my animal, all my animals have been adopted. I've gone other places. So I don't know what kind of problems they have.
So you have adopted animals from Pasadena?
I adopted one sick cat.
No, but you mentioned other animals, so that was the only...
My other animals have come from other shelters.
Other shelters.
Yeah, not from San Gabriel and not from Pasadena, but from rescues. I volunteer for a rescue, so I got my dogs there. Thank you very much. I appreciate this.
Thank you.
Next, I'd like to call Ms. Patricia Todd.
Hello, my name is Patricia Todd, and I'm a resident of San Gabriel, but I do a lot of shopping in Temple City and eating. I'm also a volunteer dog walker, that's my shirt, with the San Gabriel Valley Humane Society every Sunday morning for a little over a year, and I really love it there. I'd like to urge you to keep the contract with them. There's a very dedicated staff there, so somebody has said it seems like they care, and I really see that they do care, and I know that the volunteers care. We're a little bit nutty almost. We care so much that, and since the last year that I've been there, not only do the dogs get walked every Sunday, but now there's a new crop of volunteers that walk the dogs during the week. So the dogs there get walked, almost all the dogs get walked twice weekly. And why is that important? Because it's socializing them. It makes them so much more adoptable. So because we love the animals so much, we really want to see them, of course, get adopted. We all know what euthanasia is. It's a nice word for terminating their lives prematurely. So that's what we're working against. We want to make the dogs adoptable. There's also a set of volunteers that does weekly grooming for them, so that clip their nails, give them a bath, and all in all, it helps make them more sociable. So I just wanted to say that I hope that we can keep the care and animal care and control, and have compassion. And if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Ms. Cindy Wrigley. Good evening.
Thank you very much for allowing us to come here tonight, and I can answer some questions about the adoption process at PHS afterwards if you'd like some first-hand experience. I'm Cindy Rigney. I live in Altadena, and I am the volunteer bookkeeper for the San Gabriel Valley Humane Society. I worked in business for over 30 years, first as a CPA, now in finance and operations management. I started my volunteer career long time ago at Pasadena Humane, so I have first-hand experience with that. I'm actually the founding chair of the Wiggle Waggle Walk for the Animals, which is their biggest fundraiser. Excuse me. I could stand here and talk all night about RFP responses and financial ins and outs of our responses, their responses, but I don't even want to go into that. Enough has been said, and obviously we can have questions of me as the bookkeeper later if you'd like. But I think it's critical to bring the discussion back to what it's really all about, and that's the quality of care of the animals in your city. Because of the financial pressures and honestly very poor management prior to February of 2009, our shelter is not the prettiest or the flashiest. But I can tell you it has the happiest animal guests that you'll ever see at a shelter. I've actually had to assist dog adopters with their new family member leaving the premises. The dog literally did not want to leave. So I had to take the dog and the adopters out away from the staff, because that staff was all that animal knew and all that animal loved. As soon as the staff member was out of its sight, the dog was fine. Let's go home now. But it loved staying at the shelter. Animals arriving at the San Gabriel Valley Humane Society are checked for tags and microchips, and if we're unable to find their owner, tested for species-specific illnesses to minimize the threat of exposing any animals in our shelter to any diseases. All animals are homed in clean, safe, and well-maintained kennels or cages as appropriate. They receive more than enough food, water, and attention, as we've just heard. Our hope is that we're able to find suitable adopters for all the animals that pass through our doors. We have experienced a 0 euthanasia rate for the past 3 years. Indeed, my little 5-block area, President Street up in Altadena, we've adopted 5 dogs and 2 cats in the last year alone. And one of my former neighbors, now a Pasadena resident, just adopted a dog 2 weeks ago. As a smaller shelter, our animals have greater visibility to the adopting public, both those who visit the shelter and those who just utilize our website. In short, I've been around many animal shelters, including Baldwin Park, Best Friends, Pasadena, and a lot of others, for quite some time now, and I would not trade our little shelter with a big heart for any of them in the world. Thank you.
So how would you rate the process at Pasadena?
And this goes back a few years, but my understanding from people I still keep in touch with, it has not changed. You do meet with an adoption counselor. It's a very good process, but they have a lot of rules and regulations. I think I broke every one of them. One of them was you never adopt siblings. Siblings have already bonded. The human cannot get into the bond. Do not adopt siblings. You have to break up. I had 2 sisters who happened to adopt a 3rd one at the shelter. They were inseparable, my 3 little women, Amy, Jo, Maggie, and Bethy. And never adopt same sex. I had females until I just got a couple males a couple years ago. No problems, but there are a lot of rules and regulations, and if you don't meet the rules and regulations, you're not going to get the animal. I hear it all the time from where I work. I work at Crestview Preparatory School, a private school in La Cañada, and the finance manager up there, and I hear it all the time that people come in and they're like frustrated because they go to Pasadena and they cannot get the dog or the cat that they want. Sometimes it makes sense, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it's just, these are the rules and we will follow them no matter what. We have our rules and regulations here too. If we don't think it's a good adopter, we won't adopt to it. But it's not because it's a black and white law, it's because the animal sends you a signal, or the people send you a signal, or the fence isn't high enough, or whatever it might be, but it's a cause and effect type relationship, not you don't do this because of this.
Did you assist in the preparation of the RFP in your,
I did, and I will take responsibility for a lot of the exceptions. Because putting on my HR hat, my risk management hat, and my accounting hat all at the same time, some of those issues I did feel dealt with, you know, would a future adopter, 9 months, 10 months, we've got one dog that's been there over a year now. He's not kennel crazy, he's fine, hopefully he gets adopted. Would that adopter want their name and phone number and private information being given out to a city that they don't even know about? Because it might not be a Temple City resident. That's on me. Again, as Pat said, we can talk about this kind of stuff, but as a lawyer and dealing with the things that I've dealt with in business, those to me were some privacy issues. And I made no bones about, if this is an RFP,
would you agree though with Pat that there are several that aren't privacy issues?
Yes, there were some.
Okay,
yes.
but yet you still took exception to them.
And if you can cite a specific one, I can give you an answer as to why.
Well, for example, the duration of stay and the time of euthanasia.
I'm not sure what that one was about. Could you refresh my memory if you'd like?
Well, the duration of stay had to do with, I believe, I just had it in front of me. Duration of stay, San Gabriel Valley Humane Society takes exception. Any and all animals impounded from Temple City become the sole property of San Gabriel Valley. And so basically this has to do with, you know, the time that an animal is there, I think, right?
Well, my reading on that was that you wanted...
We're not asking for any personal information. We're basically asking how long is the dog?
I think it was
Okay,
only
been there.
one continuous thing. Yeah, you would have every right to know how long it was there, but my exception was to the issue of who was adopting it, if it was further down the line. And maybe I misunderstood the original intent. But that was what that was about. Yeah, you have every right to know how long an animal is there. And I believe it's even on the impound forms that you receive.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Brady, since you're familiar with Pasadena Humane, can you speak on their euthanasia? Do they euthanize animals after a
They
certain time?
do. My understanding again is they have a committee, just as we do, which determines euthanasia. They also use, lack of a better term, checklists for dogs and cats. And again, it's my understanding, and I have not been there for a few years, but I have kept in touch with a number of people over there, that it's, a lot of it can be related to space, because they do have overcrowding. And we were at capacity, there's no question, but we managed to work around it.
What do you do with your animals when you get overcapacitated? I mean,
Well, we weren't over capacity. I would say we were at capacity. We managed to not euthanize. I mean, we have a really good adoption rate, and we got those animals out without having to send them. The other thing Pasadena does is they send animals. They ship them to Virginia. They send them up north. They send them. There's a lot of Best Friends Humane Society does that. Animal Sanctuary does that as well. They will send animals out of state. A lot of states want smaller dogs. We don't do that. We haven't had to do that. We can't afford to do that. I mean, literally, Pasadena will pay to send these animals out of state. That's my understanding.
To other rescue organizations. Yep.
Is that a good or bad thing?
It can be good. It can be very good if you're getting the animals out and getting them adopted. But the question is, are you just rehoming them, however? That I don't have the answer to. I don't know if those other new shelters were actually able to get them adopted or not. But anything to get an animal moving in the right direction is positive as far as I'm concerned.
What is capacity for San Gabriel Humane? Is,
you know, I don't know the numbers.
I'm wondering what it is for Pasadena also. Do we know that, Mr. Sahagan?
With regard to the first question, with regard to Pasadena Humane, I think there was a question on how many euthanasians they had. As part of fiscal year 11-12, they had 30 euthanasians. They had 30 euthanasians in that year. With regard to the number of kennels,
physically walking around, I have to say we're a little smaller, but not much.
But not
and
by
a new
much.
facility, not by much. No.
I know
and a new
both
facility is
facilities
only
quite
adding
well,
a couple.
yeah.
And they service 7 cities?
their cattery, I don't know what that means, but they have room for 100 cats, and they have 200 kennels.
In Pasadena?
That is correct.
And San Gabriel?
I don't know.
Perhaps Pat can
120 cats, we have room for 120 cats, and kennels, 120 for dogs.
120 for dogs, 120 for cats. So basically, what?
And how many dogs at Pasadena?
Well, kennels, basically, for dogs.
Right, 200 kennels is what they specify.
And how many dogs are in a kennel? 2.
You prefer 1, and sometimes they can keep 2. In the city of Los Angeles, they keep up to 4 sometimes. Well, I work on them, that's why. Okay, thank you. Ms. Doreen Hudson?
Mayor Yu and council members, thank you for the opportunity to speak. I've been a San Gabriel Valley resident for the past 35 years. I'm also a public servant, like yourselves, for the past 35 years, so I appreciate your service to your community. I work for the city of Los Angeles, so I know a little bit about that shelter population as well,
Yes.
although not in animal services. I'm here to ask all of you to please reject all bids this evening. Continue your interim contract with the San Gabriel Valley Humane Society. I do believe they provide valuable service to our community. I do believe they know your community. While I am not currently a resident of Temple City, I will let you know that I spend thousands of dollars in Temple City every year. I support this city financially. I do a lot of business here, and I will continue to. I urge you to please continue supporting the San Gabriel Valley Humane Society. They know your community, they know your residential population, they know your canine and feline population, and they serve your needs to the best of their ability. And I would agree with what's been said already. You'll look far and wide before you find any more humanity in any other humane organization than the San Gabriel Valley Humane Society. Thanks.
Thank you. Ms. Lynn Coleman.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you tonight. My name is Lynn Coleman. I'm a resident of Sierra Madre, and I've been living in this area for about 20 years now. I'm a volunteer, as are many others here tonight. I'm a dog walker with the San Gabriel Valley Humane Society. I'm here on behalf of those who couldn't be here tonight. Roadrunner, Seashell, Cool, and Pez. If they could be with us tonight, they would tell you how very grateful and thankful they are that when they lost their homes, they went to the San Gabriel Valley Humane Society. I've gotten to know these dogs very, very well. And if they were here, they could tell you wonderful things. They would want you to know that there are 3 key benefits that your residents obtain from the San Gabriel Valley Humane Society. If someone can't keep their pet, whether it's due to illness, whether it's due to a relocation or a financial hardship, they can feel very comfortable and confident that when they give up their pet to the San Gabriel Valley Humane Society, it will be cared for in a compassionate, loving environment. If a resident is looking for a pet, there's no better place to go, and you've heard that tonight. The adoptable rates are extremely high, and everyone works very, very hard to socialize the dogs so they become good pets. If you are having a financial hardship and you live in Temple City, there are low-cost vaccinations and low-cost spay-neuters available for residents. In reality, we need both Pasadena Humane Society and the San Gabriel Valley Humane Society. The needs are too great and the options are too few. We all know what happens if there's a monopoly and we only have one choice, and we don't want that to happen. We may not be pretty, but we do have personality and we have heart. Please support the San Gabriel Valley Humane Society. June, Cool, Roadrunner, Pez, and many others are counting on you. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Gail Rincon.
Okay, hi, my name is Gail Rincon, and I've been a resident of Temple City for 8 years. We're gathered here tonight to make a very important decision regarding the fate of stray and lost companion animals of the residents of Temple City. In fact, it is a matter of life and death, and let me explain why. On August 26th of this year, I had the privilege of adopting a dog from the San Gabriel Valley Humane Society. She had been found as a stray on May 12th. She had been at the San Gabriel Valley Humane Society 116 days. I named her Bambi, and she is a wonderful companion dog. But if Bambi had been picked up and taken to the Pasadena Humane Society, the very same Humane Society that wants to contract with Temple City now, she would have been euthanized according to what my research online says, June 2nd. Pasadena Humane Society has a kill policy of approximately 22 days. Companion pets are euthanized according to room and according to time. And that time, whether or not the dog or cat is healthy, friendly, or the perfect companion animal, is approximately 22 days. So what am I asking for? I'm asking for Temple City and you, the council members, to continue contracting with the San Gabriel Valley Humane Society and to turn down the Pasadena Humane Society. Adoptable pets are being senselessly killed after 22 days by the Pasadena Humane Society. And what is humane about killing an adoptable pet after such a limited amount of time? Temple City is better than that. And it's obvious from the community gathered here that they agree. Pasadena Humane Society currently contracts with 7 cities. Now they want Temple City. They approached the city of San Gabriel, whose city council turned them down in August of 2012. San Gabriel City Council said some things go beyond saving money. In this case, it's saving lives. If Pasadena Humane Society obtains a contract with Temple City, they will be handling 8 cities worth of lost and abandoned pets. They will have the same amount of kennel space that they have now. It doesn't take much math background to figure that this will necessarily lead to a higher kill rate. Could this perhaps be even less time than 22 days? Pasadena Humane Society has the most selective adoption process of any kill shelter. People who work 8 hours a day are denied kittens because Pasadena Humane Society doesn't feel a kitten can be alone that long. They'd rather euthanize it than let it be adopted in a working household. If you would like to read some really sad tales of adoption denial by Pasadena Humane Society, go to yelp.com. There are plenty of examples of frustrated people who try unsuccessfully to adopt animals while the 22 days or so are ticking by. It takes 3 city council members to decide with which humane society the city of Temple City will go. Will you vote for the Pasadena Humane Society, more expensive and with a flawed kill policy and difficult to meet adoption standards? Or will you continue to contract with the San Gabriel Valley Humane Society where animals can stay as long as it takes to be found by their forever owner, like I found Bambi? Thank you.
Right, thank you.
Could I just ask a question? You talked about the city of San Gabriel's action. If I recall, did not the city just basically, they didn't make a decision, they just bought more time? In other words, there was a recommendation?
Basically, my point is they did not go with Pasadena.
Okay.
If you read what I've been researching this online, and from what I understand, they told Pasadena no. Now, maybe they told Pasadena no for a certain period of time, but they could have picked them up at the time that they had the meeting in August. And Pat can tell you contract time, because what was their contract time?
We have a 22-month contract with San Gabriel.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember, if I can answer a little bit more clarification on that. The 4 cities that were part of the JPA had a contract that terminated on June 30th, 2012. So any contract agreements entered with any of the agencies would be a whole brand new contract. And the San Gabriel contract or staff report proposed contracting with Pasadena Humane, and the council of that evening awarded a brand new contract, a 22-month contract with San Gabriel Humane.
Yeah, they chose San Gabriel.
Thank you.
And we can choose San Gabriel too.
I have a quick question. Ms. Rincon? You used the term a couple of times, and that is kill facility, I think. Is that my
Yes.
What do you mean by that?
That means that I guess basically there's 3 ways to create turnover in the animals. There's adoption, then there is euthanasia by them being there too long according to guidelines of the facility, and then there is euthanasia when they run out of space.
And in your opinion, Pasadena qualifies as a kill facility because?
Because they put a time limit on the life of the animal that they accept.
Wouldn't it be fair to say that most facilities do that, I guess, other than San Gabriel? Is that?
Well, right now we're dealing with a choice between Pasadena Humane Society and San Gabriel Valley Humane Society.
I understand that, but...
Oh, I understand. From what I understand, you can go to the county, the Baldwin Park facility. What they don't tell people there is that if you bring your animal in because you can't afford it anymore, it's euthanized that day. If a stray is found and taken there, it's euthanized after 5 days.
Okay, well...
That's a kill facility also.
All right, well, that's kind of irrelevant to what we're talking about today, but... So you're saying that an animal that goes to San Gabriel has a home forever?
When I was there and I got my dog, there was a dog that had been there for 9 months, and there was another dog that had been there for over a year. They go there until they're adopted.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Can I ask staff a question?
Absolutely.
We've heard a lot about adoption rates and stuff. Can you shed some light on that perhaps as far as the facilities are concerned?
The numbers that I have, and that was per the last audit conducted by the city of Glendale at the expense of the Pasadena Humane Society, indicated the 30 euthanasians, 98% adoption rate for dogs, and a 96% adoption rate for cats.
Wait, 98% adoption rate for dogs?
For dogs, correct.
And what was for cats?
96.
And that's at Pasadena?
Yes, correct.
Do we have the numbers for San Diego?
I believe Ms. Breyer can provide those.
Do you have those numbers?
She alluded to them earlier.
You can say, I'm sorry if you said her.
I can stay here. Yeah, for dogs it's 90%. For cats was 104% because we actually adopted out of what our population is as well last year. And when I say
it's 104% for cats? Okay.
Yes, because not only
more than from the year before.
we always, the shelter's never empty, so there's always animals in the shelter. So the 104% equates to all of the intake for 2011, whatever that number was, all those cats were adopted, plus cats that were residing in the shelter. And the 90% of the dogs, the other 10% are still residents of the shelter. And as long as they are happy, healthy, and adoptable, there's no time limit on them.
So would you, Ms. Bray, would you call your, characterize your shelter as a no-kill shelter?
Well, you know, that's a smoke and mirrors term to us. Yeah. It really is. And the reality for the whole United States is that there are 8 million homeless animals every year, and there's not enough homes for them. So every shelter, regardless of whether it's a humane society, a county facility, a city facility, they do have to evaluate the animals that they take in for adoptability. Certain criteria are applied, and it varies from one shelter, rescue, or city or county facility to another. You know, our standards for adoptability, we do know are less strict than other facilities. You know, the dogs in our shelter age average between 6 months and 9 months. 6 months and 9 months. That tells us one important fact. Those animals were pets when they were puppies. 6 to 9 months is when they need housebreaking, they need training, they need attention, exercise, and time. And people don't realize the commitment level required. So from an adoptability standpoint, they're not housebroken, they don't really know how to sit and stay. But are they happy, healthy, and adoptable? Absolutely.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Next, I'd like to call Ms. Wendy Denotrio.
She left, correct?
She left. And that is the last speaker I request. I can't read your last name. Miss Kathleen Resch. Okay, sorry.
I've been a resident of Temple City since the 80s, and recently, last month, I adopted a cat. She had been there since April 2011, so she'd been there for 16 months. And I was very pleased with the professionalism, the warmth, the interest, the passion the San Gabriel Humane Society has for the animals, helpfulness, and it was a very moving experience to me to rescue an animal who had been there that long. My other experience with them several years ago was a friend of mine was quite ill, and one of his basically last wishes was for someone to take care of his cat after he died. After he passed away, there was a certain amount of chaos going on, the cat escaped the house. And I went to the Humane Society, got a trap. They told me how to use it. I fully understood its operation. I was able to successfully capture the cat. I still have him to this day. And that's all I want to say, but I just was very impressed with their helpfulness in all regards.
Quick question, Ms. Resch. How's your cat doing the 16 months in the shelter? How's it behaving at home?
Oh, she's a little bit shy, there's this whole big world she's not used to, but she's getting used to.
Does it show that the cat, while it was at the shelter, was well taken care of?
Oh, absolutely.
And
yes.
socialized and all that?
No, she's doing fine, just very pleased, she's just a little bit, I don't want to go out and explore the entire house, but, the cat I adopted from my friend who passed away, he was about the same procedure, a new place, new house, didn't want to explore the whole thing at once. She's the same way. It took him about, I've only had her for about a month now, and it took him around 6 weeks before he would leave the laundry room. And now he's everywhere, so.
Thank you, thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I actually submitted a speaker request form as well.
Oh, maybe I skipped over it. I'm sorry. Please come on up and introduce yourself, please.
My name is Chris Bias. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, City Council. I prepared a small statement. I'll make it quick.
Oh, yes, I have it here. Sorry.
Thank you. My name is Chris Bias. I'm a resident of the City of Arcadia, who, as a member of the committee who accepts the animal services of the Pasadena Humane Society. I can only tell you that my experiences have been contrary as to what the Pasadena Humane Society has led me and my community to believe. I don't want this to be a bashing for the Pasadena Humane Society, but the San Gabriel Valley Humane Society can provide customer service during regular business hours, evening hours, without an automated system, have quick response times for the citizens of Temple City for any issue related to animal control. I can tell you, every call would be handled promptly by the San Gabriel Valley Humane Society I can tell you, every call would be handled promptly by the San Gabriel Valley Humane Society due to being in close proximity to the city. And every call will be handled with the utmost professionalism by the staff of the San Gabriel Valley Humane Society. The San Gabriel Valley Humane Society has deep roots, a supported community, business relations for decades. Pasadena has neither one of those attributes to their credit. Therefore, Temple City residents would not get the same level of service the San Gabriel Valley Humane Society has given for so many years. I encourage you, council members, to look past the Pasadena Humane Society's facade and see that they are only interested in signing a contract to further their own interests. I would like to quote San Gabriel Councilmember Harrington. A lot of members were up here tonight letting you know that Pasadena does have a nice facility. But Councilman Harrington did make a good point. A dog doesn't care if it's at the Taj Mahal or a cave, a new facility or an old facility. All it cares is that it's being cared for and loved. And you know what? It's getting that at the San Gabriel Valley Humane Society, and that's from firsthand knowledge. His statement was backed by City Council member Della Torre, who both council members adopted their animals from the San Gabriel Valley Humane Society. Also, City Council member Harrington brought up an issue. It's a hidden tax that City of Temple City would have to go through, which one of your residents had brought up. Price of gas is so high, and yet if you guys decide to contract out with Pasadena, they're going to have to pay that hidden tax with the commute that they would have to go through to retrieve their animal. I know I have a red light, but
finish your thoughts.
With San Gabriel Valley Humane Society so close, it's only advantageous to the citizens of Temple City, as well as the animal to be reunited with its owner right away, and you wouldn't get that same service with Pasadena. So that's all I have for you tonight.
All right, thank you. Anyone else like to speak? I think there are a couple. Yeah, please come on up. Please fill one of the speaker forms after you're done.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Grace Thompson, and I'm a resident of Sierra Madre. But I have been volunteering at the Humane Shelter for about the last 5 years in the fundraising. San Gabriel Valley, as a fundraising advocate, and just recently as a volunteer in their front office. And I just want to make one point. The point that I've learned about our facility is it's a simple logistics. And I've had people on the phone since I've been there the last 6 weeks, and I get a lot of flack from people who say in Temple City, why would I have to go to Pasadena to get my dog or cat if it was lost 2 blocks from here? And this is what I think people are saying when they say our facility knows your area, it knows the streets, it knows the area. So just being on the phones on a daily basis and listening to people, the logistics would seem to be that you would go with someone close by. And the other aspect of that is when a dog or cat is lost in this area, if you're contracted with Pasadena, that animal goes to Pasadena. Now, your person in Temple City who's lost that animal is going to call us first because we're the closest. But we're going to have to say to them, like I have said in the last few weeks, I'm sorry, we're not contracted with you, and we probably don't have your animal. And they say to me, that doesn't make any sense. You guys are closest to us. Why can't we go and look? And we say, come and look. But chances of us being able to have gone to pick up that lost animal is not available to us because we're not contracted with your city. And I've been yelled at several times about this. So for me, it's a logistics thing. It's just, why would I think of going to Baldwin Park if I'm in Sierra Madre and my dog was lost? It's a contract thing, and it's too bad. But so I hope you guys can look into that aspect of it and meet your citizens' needs as opposed to political or contract situations.
Anyone else? No? Okay.
Hi there. My name's Cece DeGraff, and I actually have been a volunteer at the Humane Society for about 14 years.
San Gabriel Valley.
San Gabriel Valley, and I'm currently on the board with Pat and Frank, and been on the board with them since 2009. And I'm speaking more on the volunteer side. When I first started about 14 years ago, there were maybe 3 or 4 of us walking dogs, and I think it's to the shelter's credit that now our program, we have about a little under 200 volunteers that come and are very dedicated. We just did an event on Saturday in LA. We do adoptions once a month, and to me that
is so important because it signifies that the shelter is going in the right direction when we have this much support and those individuals that are willing to come in and give of their time. And it's just been really great to see that change, especially during the last 3.5 years. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak? Ready to close public comments?
Move to close public comments.
Okay, public comments closed. Now's the time for the council members to make comments.
I have no appointment.
Council member Viscar, please.
Well, I'm torn. I always respect the information that we get back from our staff regarding any issue and any assignment we give them to follow through on, and as always, they've done an excellent job here. But then, of course, we always have to listen to our residents, and that's the reason we're here, is because we were elected by you to represent you. Now, I know that the folks that I'm getting here tonight are folks that are very interested in this particular topic, and we have something like 36,000 people living in the city, and this is a microcosm, and only half of the folks here are Temple Cityans. So these are just the things that kind of go through your head when you're thinking about issues like this one. And I've been talking to people also that I know that live in Temple City about their feelings on the issue and which way we should go. One thing my golf partner told me this morning, who's very much, he's got 5 or 6 chihuahuas, and they all sit with him on a chair and watch television. And so he knows the shelters, and I said, what's your take on this thing? You know, I'm curious, I keep asking people. And he says, well, Pasadena really smells good, and they've got a great facility. He said, but San Gabriel has been here forever, and people just generally like it, and it's close. So he looks back at me and says, so I guess you have a decision to make, don't you? I said, yeah, I do. So that's what I'm weighing right now, those kinds of things. And I hear what everybody is saying here, and I understand it. And I've had occasion, I've worked with Quinn. She came over when we had a lot of feral cats and helped us out. And now we have 4 of them. By the way, I got a new one about 3 weeks ago. You're going to have to take care of that pretty soon. And it's that kind of dedication. She's a volunteer. She does it on her own. She came over on her own time. I think you got a grant at one point in time to do some of this stuff. I don't remember, but you just showed up with your cages, and I still think you have my cage.
Come check it out.
And was catching these feral cats and taking them off and getting them neutered and their little ear clipped, and then bringing them back, and they became our pets. So that's the kind of thing that's going on in the San Gabriel. I think it's that personal touch, and that's kind of hard to overcome. And I'm a businessman also, and I look at the bottom line. But service delivery is important, and how people feel about things is very important. So those are the things that I'm weighing, and I'll wait till it's time for me to vote.
Okay. All right. Councilmember Blue.
Thank you. Like Councilmember Viscara, a number of observations. Obviously, there are lots of warm, fuzzy stories about animals. I mean, we all know that. So, I mean, we come here, and that's a given. I admire and I thank the many, many people that volunteer to help with the shelter, whether it's this shelter, other shelters. Temple City has a very strong volunteer core of people, I think that's what makes our city good, so, you know, I would expect that of people from Temple City. It was interesting, as Councilmember Vizcarra said, that half the speakers were not Temple City residents. I think that's one of the issues you always look at. I mean, who's speaking here? And we've had other presentations where everybody's from 30 miles away and they're telling us how to run our operation here. So that also is a factor. I would say both Pasadena Humane Society and the San Gabriel Humane Society are both very good humane societies. I mean, they're all trying to do the same thing, and they're just serving different clients. I think the difference is, I think Councilmember Vizcarra probably said it, one's probably bigger. My guess is, well, not my guess is, I know they get more money, they probably get more donations, so therefore they have a bigger facility, a nicer facility, rather than the San Gabriel one. I was concerned, we asked staff to evaluate this. We asked them to go out with an RFP. It bothers me that they've gone through all this trouble to do an evaluation, to bring a recommendation to us, and then to hear from the people submitting the application saying, well, we really didn't give you all the right information, we really think some other stuff. And I guess that raises a question in my mind, if this is somebody we're going to have a contract with and do business with, I mean, where's the reliability to do that? I mean, these people put in a lot of time and a lot of effort trying to come up with an evaluation. And that just bothers me that the people say, well, yeah, I know that, but I didn't. That really concerns me. I mean, this is an important matter to our city. We're trying to make the right decision. I appreciate getting good information from the people that are submitting. One of the fallback positions that Pat said was if they don't get the contract, that they will become an adoption center. Almost everything I heard from people speaking today talked about the ability to adopt pets. So therefore, if that option took place, we would still have the adoption capabilities in the city here. And the city is not asking to contract for all services. I mean, we're going to maintain a number of services here ourselves. I think those are all my comments at this point.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Bloom. Councilmember Chavez.
Thank you. Well, I too share some of the same concerns of my fellow council members. You know, it seems like a short time, but it seems like a long time since Vince and I took the oath to become council members. And to me, that oath meant, of course, representing the citizens of Temple City and making those decisions based not on emotion or bias, but based on facts. And, you know, we heard tonight from many people, both in the city and outside the city, and many people who I know and I respect their opinion, and you know, I think their opinions are well taken. At the same time, you know, I heard some comments about the staff and the report, and I just want to say I think that our staff did not get it wrong in this instance, from the standpoint that they've done their job, they've done their homework, they've done their due diligence, and they've given us a staff report that gives us all we have to make an intelligent, well-informed decision. So from that standpoint, you know, I just want to say that I think they've done a great job. They've prepared a 6-page compilation of scope of services and rated them all from an unbiased standpoint. And if you look at those numbers alone, it's not really even close. But you know, that's just the numbers, of course, and that's why we have these kind of meetings, to hear from the people in the public. I do share a concern that Councilmember Bloom brought up, and that is the concern about transparency. And this just isn't about tonight, but you know, based on my past experiences, both with the JPA, with the San Gabriel Valley Humane Society, seems to be an ongoing problem. Record keeping, reporting, and nothing that I've heard here tonight has really changed my view and has convinced me that that is either improved or will improve in the future. I too am concerned about the fact that an RFP went out and was submitted to the city, but now here tonight we hear kind of pullback on some of those things as far as the exception is concerned. So, you know, that makes me wonder, you know, really what's going on here. So, you know, I was really prepared tonight after seeing the staff report that, you know, what the correct answer was. But of course, after listening to you tonight, and I see the passion and I see the concern. You know, it's unfortunate that we don't have anybody here from Pasadena Humane Society. I don't know what that says. I know that they've gone to previous council events and they were concerned about some of the, I don't want to say abuse, but some of the comments that were made, and I don't know, maybe they got a point, but you know, there's nobody here to stand up for them. I don't think that Pasadena Humane Society is necessarily an evil place. I don't think anybody really here has said it is, but it seems like we've kind of put them on a different level. But be that as it may, you know, I still have some concerns about it and about San Gabriel Valley Humane Society and the reporting and transparency. I know Pat has indicated that she's willing to work with the city on those. You know, I would like to see that if we can. I think that needs to be an issue that needs to be addressed. So.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Sternquist.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, it is a difficult decision, and I thank staff for doing their job and doing it diligently. For me, it's difficult to compare the issue of 9 cities of Pasadena Humane Society having to service, I believe it's 9 cities?
8.
Or 8 cities compared to 2 cities. I'm not sure the question about how comparable the capacity was answered. I know we kind of have an answer from San Gabriel. We do have an answer, but we're not sure with Pasadena. You have that?
If you have a question to answer with regard to that, I do have some notes that were submitted by Mr. McNall, the president of, I just don't know, what was that question again?
How many animals does Pasadena, what is their capacity and the capacity of San Gabriel?
I think that was the capacity for dogs. It was 200.
EU for cats.
For dudes, 200 kennels, and as the council alluded earlier, you know, they could ideally that would be 1 dog per kennel, but in certain other agencies that could be up to 4. It's 200 kennels for dogs and a room for 100 cats.
That's which one?
Pasadena Humane.
And San Gabriel was
120 for cats.
120 cats and how many dogs?
140 dogs.
100.
We do have a spillover area for an additional 20 dogs, so it would be 160 dogs if we had to go that high.
I'm sorry, may I interject? And your kennels are, some of them indoor, some of them outdoor?
Yes.
Right. Pasadena is all outdoor kennels. They're the pioneer of outdoor kennels. That was actually as a model that used by LA City for a lot of the newer shelters. Although personally, as a designer, I question that keeping dogs forever outdoor. On a great sunny day, you go there, it's wonderful. You know, it's like a park, walking through a park. You need to go there on a day when it's raining, when it's cold, and see what it's like. So.
Kennels are closed then. Kennels are closed on Friday days.
Yeah, you cannot go there, but the dogs are still there.
Yeah.
cowering under the little shelter. Yes. So, I mean, while we're talking about animal capacities, you also need to look at, you know, like we said, the dogs don't appreciate architecture necessarily, but they know, you know, like to have a nice warm shelter.
So, let me think about what my statement was now. But anyway, so you have 8 cities with residents. I'm imagining most of the cities are larger than our population of 36,000. I don't know what percentage of households have dogs or cats, but I would imagine it's a good percentage in each city. So when I look at that ratio, automatically I'm wondering how can they sustain the life of their animals for longer than 22 days when they're servicing 8 cities. So that is a huge concern of mine if we went to Pasadena Humane Society. Mr. Bloom, Councilmember Bloom mentioned that there are a lot of residents here tonight that are not from Temple City. I don't know about other council members, but I counted them, 62 emails from Temple City residents, all in favor of San Gabriel Humane Society, that were not able to come this evening for one reason or another. So I just wanted to bring that issue up, and I'm sure you received some of those 67 emails, and I think people did take the time to, you know, they are not just short, brief support San Gabriel Humane Society, but they were substantiated by their personal experiences. I think the issue of transparency is pertinent to what this council wants to accomplish for its residents. And my question about transparency is, before this whole issue came up, we've had San Gabriel Humane Society for how many years, and this transparency issue wasn't an issue. So my question is, why now? Okay. And I think those are issues that can be addressed now that we are taking a very close look at the contracts. One other thing that I would just like to remind the council is that oftentimes things like RFPs look wonderful, and I'm just going to throw this example out, is that we contracted with a new dial-a-ride service, and it has been completely different with what the original contract was supposed to provide, and it has been a heartache actually for the residents who have had the service previous. So San Gabriel Humane Society is something that I feel the community knows, has not had problems with. I've never heard of problems with the service provided. So my feeling is to work with San Gabriel Humane Society, try and alleviate whatever issues the staff feels are in conflict with what this council would like and how we want to operate in the city. And I guess it would be to approve the interim contract for another.
Reject all bids and
yes,
and approve an interim contract.
And those are my thoughts.
Okay. Right, it's my turn. Why do we provide animal sheltering? Why do we provide animal control services? I think we really need to look at it from 2 standpoints, two major factors. One is the welfare of the animals, obviously living in the city, being pets, being strays. And the other one is the welfare of our residents. How does animal, or how do companion animals impact or being an asset to our residents? How accessible is the ability to adopt a dog or a cat? How accessible it is for them to volunteer, because many of us are animal lovers and we like to be able to volunteer our time, show our love for animals. So we need to look at both factors. It just so happened I'm very familiar with animal shelter because that's one of my specialty as an architect. I know Pasadena shelter really well because that was, actually I went there and really studied it myself. That was the basis for a lot of the city of LA design. It's a wonderful shelter, no doubt about it. I think architecture-wise, hands down, Pasadena is a great shelter. And also putting a plug for all the animal workers and even the municipal shelters. I mean, we all are trying the very best to shelter, to care for all the animals. It's just that we ran out of space. We ran out of resources. So I think even the county, even the city shelters, I mean, it's very difficult to put down an animal, and I've seen plenty of that, unfortunately. So therefore, as far as animal welfare is concerned, we need to look at which shelter would provide the best welfare to our animal, to the pets that may be living one day at your house and run off tomorrow. What is the likelihood that our residents would find them here, like I think one of the speakers, what would they naturally go? They would go to San Gabriel Valley Humane Society, not Pasadena. And if you go to a local pet store or a super pet, you find animals from our San Gabriel Valley Humane Society and not Pasadena. I think there is an important cycle here where animals are being serviced and where our residents are being served. I appreciate staff for working hard and putting together RFP. However, I am troubled by the fact that distance is not one of the criteria. I mean, something so obvious, it was not part of the evaluation. A lot of things we can change, we can improve in animal shelters. Your personnel can change, you can build prettier buildings, have more resources and all that. But one thing we cannot change is distance. I mean, Temple City is where Temple City is, and Pasadena is where Pasadena is. We cannot move the two cities closer together. I really would like that to be one of the major criteria. I mean, if you're a kid, you want to volunteer after school, you'd like to be able to go to a shelter where you can ride a bike or even walk there. I measured it, it's 1.3 miles from City Hall, and City Hall is tend to be further east generally, so the bulk of the city is actually much closer than within a mile of the San Gabriel Valley Humane Society. Whereas the Pasadena shelter, actually Councilmember Scar was asking me where it is. It's on Raymond Street. I mean, many of us who live in this area for years and years and years, and we don't even know where it is. It's a great shelter. I mean, I'm not going to put down the Pasadena folks. They are a really good shelter. I went there. They were friendly. I do hear some story about how hard it is to be adopting animals over there. But I think as a city, we need to look beyond just the apparent cost between two services. I think we also need to look at the hidden cost of our residents not be inconvenient having to go to Pasadena, having not the ability to volunteer and service their own neighbor's animal. I think there's a lot to be said about being local, being within the neighborhood. As far as the question on the RFP, I don't believe, RFPs are pretty tricky to answer, and I don't believe the San Gabriel Valley Humane Society has been a professional RFP preparer. I mean, you don't put this together every day. Funnily, my job is also to evaluate those in my job. And there's a big difference in people who do this every day and people who don't do it every day. And as long as you're willing to work with us, I think I'm okay with that. We heard a lot from a lot of folks tonight. Yes, I know a lot of them do not live in the city, but at the same time, there's a fair number of folks that do live in the city. And the fact that you can draw so many volunteers from so far away, and many of them are actually neighbors of Pasadena, Sierra Madre, Altadena people. I mean, that really shows that how good a shelter you are. It's funny, I design facilities, and I really appreciate the Pasadena shelter, the new and all that. But I think at the end of the day is the animal welfare of the animals, and welfare of residents that's most important. So I think I'm for rejecting all bids and trying to work with our local shelter. That's my bid. I'm ready for a motion.
Mayor, perhaps
no further
maybe
discussion.
Before we take a motion, if we hear a lot of statements tonight from the public, I'm curious to know if there's anything that staff would want to comment on or correct or say regarding after hearing any of those statements. That's okay. Is that okay with you?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, great suggestion.
If I may, Mayor, you, council members, the task put before staff 3 months ago was to prepare an RFP, and ostensibly staff acts almost in a vacuum and makes the decision based on the tangible data that's put before us. All the other information, especially what comes forward today, that's for you. Staff would, based on the data that was provided to staff through the proposals and based on the responses obtained from other cities, it was staff's assertion that a recommendation for Pasadena Humane be made. I kind of liken it to, we're paid to think with this, with our brain, not with our hearts. At the end of the day, we provided that recommendation, and we would be almost derelict in our duties based on the information provided to us in the RFP to provide something, another recommendation besides that. I just wanted to, make that clear that we act in a vacuum, separate from external.
Yeah, you guys done a good job in putting the RFP together and detail and a good analysis, and we appreciate that. And as you said, you actually came back with the recommendation, either we need further investigation or that we can reject our bids and try to work with who we have.
The rejection of bids and the city attorney, the rejection of bids, the or in the recommendation would be to reject all bids and allow staff to, on an interim basis, stay with the San Gabriel Valley Humane Society while staff further analyzes this issue and provides recommendations at a later date, not to exceed the end of this fiscal year.
Do you anticipate those recommendations being any different from tonight? Are you going to base that, I guess, on the performance of the San Gabriel Valley Humane Society? Is that
because this cost for service exceeds $25,000 per year? It would be fair to assume that the city will put this out for bid again.
Or
Councilmember Chavez, maybe I can help clarify. In the discussion tonight, there was some back and forth with San Gabriel Valley as to things that they might have changed in their proposal. Because of that back and forth, and because Pasadena really didn't have that same opportunity, there would be a problem with actually awarding, a legal problem with actually awarding a long-term contract to San Gabriel. At the same time, staff has heard your concerns. Staff has heard some of the concerns of the community. And there would be a way to start the process over and put together an RFP that takes into account some of the concerns that have come out through this first RFP process. while maintaining a need to get a good low-cost service. Certainly, I think staff has heard the mayor's ideas about having proximity to the city be a factor. That wasn't a factor before, wasn't something staff could consider in making a recommendation, so it really wouldn't be proper to award a contract on that basis. But as staff continues to look the matter over and to figure out how best to approach this for a long-term basis, they can come back to you maybe before the end of the calendar year, but certainly at your direction before the end of the fiscal year, having looked into what other things need to be taken into account, having listened to what the community has said and what your body has said tonight, and that would be, I think, the direction that Mr. Sahagan is looking for. And then, of course, as we've said, continue to work with San Gabriel Valley in the interim so that there's no lapse in service to the community.
Okay, thank you, Mr. City Attorney. Any other comments from the council? Otherwise, I'm ready for a motion.
Do you want to give us a hand here, Greg, in
Sure. The
crafting a motion?
Certainly. I think the first motion you would want to do is to reject all bids and cancel this request for solicitation.
Yeah, I'll make that motion to cancel all bids and what?
To reject all bids and cancel this current solicitation.
That.
Second. Second.
We have a motion to reject all bids, and so, Madam Clerk, we have a roll call, please.
Councilmember Bloom,
Yes.
Councilmember Chavez,
Yes.
Councilmember Vizcarra,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Sternquist,
Yes.
Mayor Yu.
Yes.
Then we would need a motion to continue with San Gabriel Valley on an interim basis to provide for the continuance of service and further to direct staff to bring this matter back to the council before the end of the fiscal year for a long-term resolution.
I'll make that motion.
Oh, you're doing that?
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, it's moved and seconded. Madam Clerk, roll call.
Councilmember Bloom,
Yes.
Councilmember Chavez,
Yes.
Councilmember Vizcarra,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Sternquist,
Yes.
Mayor Yu.
Yes. So the city has, will be working with the San Gabriel Valley Humane Society on an interim basis for the next, until the end of fiscal. Yeah. So.
Can I make a comment real quick?
Yes, please.
Just, at least on my part, I've gotten, going through this in the past week or two, a greater awareness of what's happening, the whole issue of animal control. So I, for one, will be keeping a closer eye and will be expecting to see some measure of improvement in service. Because we will vote again at another time.
And hopefully you can work out some of the transparency and reporting issues that at least, the council and also staff have rightly pointed out. So to clear some of that.
Staff will, move forward, as the city attorney indicated, to expand the scope of the RFP to include some of the comments that were put here today. And naturally, we would look at past practice when issuing that RFP.
Well, thank you, Mr. Sahagan. So that concludes our first item in unfinished business. Yeah, that's we have a second item here, and because already 10 after 10, my fellow council member do not disagree. I'd like to table this till a later date, the next item.
I'd prefer to take a 5-minute break and come back and finish it.
Okay. Well,
Is it my understanding, though, that we can't vote on this tonight anyway, or is this
Yeah.
a question regarding what we can do with this issue anyway?
The matter came up this morning that while an ordinance may be introduced at a special meeting and have its first reading, it has to actually be adopted at a regular meeting. So while you can certainly hear the staff report tonight and receive public comment, we would probably, I would certainly ask you to not deliberate too heavily on it tonight, and the vote must be taken at a regular meeting. The city clerk is already preparing to notice the matter for the October 16th meeting, which is your regular meeting 3 weeks away. If there are members of the public here that have waited to speak on the matter, certainly I can understand that you may want to hear them, but by law, no vote can actually be taken tonight.
I'll withdraw my statement.
Maybe perhaps we should ask the audience if there's anybody here that would like to speak on that matter so that they don't have to necessarily come back.
Great suggestion, Councilman Shell. Anyone who were planning to speak on the second item, which is the adoption of Title 10 of the Los Angeles County Code? Okay.
And I would make a motion that we table this matter and continue to our next meeting.
We do have one.
Oh, we do have one? I'm sorry.
Well, you got a motion to table it?
Well, if you wanted to hear.
No, I can speak when it's.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're not going anywhere. You'll be right.
I'll second
I
that.
was going to be
Okay,
last,
it's
but.
moved and seconded, so we will table this item to October 16th. Next item is new business. There is none. Communication, there is none. And additional public comments on item not listed, not on the animal sheltering. Anybody would like to speak?
Move we close public comments.
Second.
Okay, public comments closed. Next item, closed session. There is none. We're getting ready to adjourn. Our next meeting, regular meeting, is October 2nd. But this Thursday, we will have a joint council and planning commission meeting on housing element. It's going to be proven to be very exciting. 7 p.m. So all welcome. So 7 for sure. Yeah. Yeah. Mayor Pro Tem?
I just would like to share with the audience that I know our Robert Sahagan, our staff member, said that they think with their mind, but I want you to know he has a lot of heart, as our staff does too. So don't underestimate yourself.
Yeah.
And thank you for that.
Yeah. I was saying I appreciate what staff has done, even though we did not go with the recommendation, that you've spent a lot of effort on it, and we appreciate that.
And just to add on that, I can tell you that when we have citizens who call in or contact one of us and we direct them to staff and they just take care of it like that. And I don't know any other staff that really does that, so they should be commended for that.
Yeah, good job. So, all right, good. So meeting is adjourned.